here with Supervisor Don Knabe. Don, you will be honored as Citizen of the Year at the Terranea Resort next month, and you'll be leaving us. And we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about your career. 35 years in public service, 20 years here at District 4. Did you ever see yourself working in public service for this many years?
Absolutely not. I mean, everything that's happened to me along the line is, I call them like God things, the little things that have happened. That when I originally went to work for Dean Dana back in 1982, I was on the street of city council. He asked me to come aboard to help him out with some of his cities because I knew a lot of the electeds. And he asked me to help him out for 90 days. And here we are almost 35 years later. So I wound up 14 years as Dean's Chief of Staff and then ran for the office myself with his support and won that election in 1996. And so, I don't think that I ever thought of myself in public life. That was not something that I either aspired. I mean, I wish I could say, I dreamed of this. I'm just a kid from Rock Island, Illinois, right, and on the Mississippi River back there. And I tell the story that about politics, and my first foray was running for class president after being on student council and being involved. The Friday night before the election, the guy I was running against caught a touchdown pass with no time left on the clock. The election was Monday, so I think I got 2 votes, mine and my girlfriend's, but I wasn't sure about my girlfriend's. And so, and then my parents moving to California while I was still in college and leaving and forwarding address that I could find. So I got here in sort of a unique way,
Right.
and spent my time in the military, the rest is just sort of piecemeal. I mean, I can't say that, wow, this has been a dream, but I will tell you, I feel really blessed. It's been a great journey and probably the best political job in America.
You've had so many cities to take care of over the years, but you always have made it a point to come to RPV, the chamber breakfast, to really mix around with the people. Why was it important to you to take care of an affluent community?
Well, I think, in the early days, one of the things I wanted to make sure that they understood that I cared about them just as much as Dean Dana did. And, Dean lived on the hill, and obviously I didn't. I'm down in the flatlands. I say I live on the water. I back up the flood control channel. But, no, one of the things, my background in local government, being a mayor and a member of a city council, really played an important role in my representation of my district. And whether it's a poor community or affluent community, at the end of the day, their needs are all the same, some in different areas in working together. And so the Hill's a very, very important part of the district, and as well as Long Beach, as well as Diamond Bar, as well as the unincorporated areas of Rowland Heights or Hacienda Heights. So I tried to treat everyone equally. Most importantly, I really worked hard to make sure that they got their fair share of the tax dollars that they paid. I mean, they pay taxes just like everybody else. And
Exactly.
I remind everyone there are 87 other cities in the county besides the city of LA.
You and I have had many conversations about the Chamber of Commerce in Rancho Palos Verdes, and you always compliment them. What a great job they do. Why is it important for a city to have a chamber like that?
Well, I think it's very important. I'm a chamber president husband.
Okay.
My wife was president twice of the Streeters Chamber of Commerce and a small business person. I think the chamber plays a very, very important role in networking, bringing the business to the forefront to share what they have. When you walk the street, if you live in a city, okay, as an example, and you don't get a chance to walk around and see every business, but if you have a chamber of commerce sort of tooting your horn, it really helps the vibrancy of the business community. More importantly, there's other opportunities, whether it's purchasing, whether it's newsletters, whatever it may be, insurance opportunities, seminars on different things that are affecting business with the changing laws each and every year. The chamber plays a very, very important role and in the life of a city.
And for people that don't know, you're there at the street fairs. You come for some of the fun events and mix with people. Why?
I just enjoy people. I mean, number one, I'm sort of a people person, I think, and I've always enjoyed that. This job is very, how do I want to say it, very intense in the things that we have to deal with as it relates to the safety net. And so a lot of people may see me presenting scrolls. It's so much more than that. And so, it's really important for me to be able to feel a community, to see what they're like in a community-based group, or organization, party, whatever it may be, street fairs. seeing the people sort of move around and operate, and just to get to know your community. I mean, it's no different than me doing my job. I mean, I want to know what's going on in the life of my community. I want to know when I stand up in front of a group, whether it's the chamber, whether it's a community-based group. I want to know what's going on in the community, and you can only find that out by trying to be a part of it a little bit. I mean, obviously, with 2 million people in 27 cities, it's tough to get as around as much as you want. But I think I've really worked hard over the years to feel like I'm a part of their community.
You've been involved in so many charities and organizations like Rancho, sex trafficking, and the Safe Surrender program. Tell us a little bit, just briefly, about each one, and will you still stay involved with them?
Oh, absolutely. A matter of fact, on the sex trafficking issue, I'm still in contact with the federal government. I may be involved on a federal level, doing some things with that. As it relates, sort of go back, we're going one at a time. Rancho is a perfect example. Rancho Los Amigos Rehabilitation Hospital, one of the premier rehabilitation hospitals in America, and the only really in the top 2025 of public hospitals. I mean, the rest are all private. And my involvement in Rancho, again, it's sort of an interesting start. It had nothing to do with the county. At the time, I was on the city council in the city of Cerritos. I had just been elected, and we went to Contract Cities for our annual Contract Cities convention. And we had our city dinner at the top of the mountain there at the trolley or whatever they call it. And we came back down the hill, and we were coming back. I had the fire chief as an example in the back of my car, my wife and I, and the fire chief of the county of Los Angeles. And we came around a corner, and one of my colleagues' cars was off to the side. It looked fine. Well, when I went there to see if he was okay, he wasn't. And so, obviously, with the fire chief, we were able to get him treatment and get him to the hospital. When I left him that night, they told me he had broken ribs. Next morning at 6 o'clock, I found out that he was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And so I tried to assist him once he got done with the treatment to stabilize him down in Palm Springs. He needed a place to go, and they picked Rancho, and they sent him to Rancho. And so at the time, I was a stockbroker. So the market closes every day in California at 1 o'clock. I'd go over and spend the afternoons with him every day almost. And I was with him the first time he sat up in his bed, the first time he had a transfer from his bed to his chair, from his chair to his car to home, whatever it may be. I was with him with all those firsts, and snuck him in a beer or a hamburger every once in a while to add some. But I became very familiar with Rancho and the miracles that they perform there, and the difficulties as a patient, the difficulties as somebody in occupational recreational therapy, the things that they have to do, the discipline. And so I was a member of the Cerritos Optimist Club, which is like a Kiwanis or Rotary Club, and I used to go up on Thursday nights with the Downey Optimist Club and fix hot dogs during the summer for the patients. Now again, it had nothing to do with the county. I was a stockbroker, and then fast forward, I wind up here, and I wind up with Dean, and then I wind up, there was redistricting. We wind up with Rancho in our district, and it's really been a passion of mine. To make sure that they have the resources they need. And we're rebuilding, we call it Rancho Rising 2020, a new wellness center, a new second wing of the outpatient clinic, because there's two things happening in Rancho. Obviously, the ongoing need, and we've done a contract with the VA for the rehab of veterans coming back from IED kinds of things, brain trauma. And then also, many people don't know, but Rancho originally was a polio farm, and part of the county system, but a polio farm. And so there's a post-polio syndrome happening right now, which has really put a burden on our outpatient services out there. Patients that had polio that have been okay are starting to have some problems. It's a whole new, unique treatment. And so we're trying to deal with that and make the facilities is good for that as well. So it's just been this process, and I've been in this position, never ever thinking that I would be in this position to help Rancho. And I've started art programs, and we have all different kinds of programs out there, and pieces of equipment that allow some folks to walk if they can. Yep. So it's just amazing facility, and yes, I will stay involved with Rancho. The other piece, the sex trafficking is an example that came to my attention several years ago by a couple. I call them my sheroes, a couple of my probation officers that are women in our probation department, telling me about this issue of sex trafficking. And I said, well, how did you guys do? Travel all over the world or what? Thinking it was in Thailand or some other place. He said, no, right here in your own backyard. And this was about 4 or 5 years ago. So because of their leadership and what they've done, they got me involved, and I've sort of been on the forefront of that issue. My colleagues have been very supportive and also got involved in many different ways. We've created protocols as it relates, because there's no such thing as a child prostitute. I mean, they are victims. They are victims. And so we're working through all that, try to treat them as such. We have dedicated courtrooms so they don't have to go back out with their scumbag pimp. We're doing a lot of different things. We're training all our metro employees, because public transportation is a very important part of moving these young victims around. We're training, lawyers. We're training ER folks. We're training courtroom folks, to be able to help identify these victims and get them the treatment, or at least the opportunity to get out of that system. And it's bigger than ever because the gangs are getting into it.
Right.
It's easier to turn a young victim 6, 8, 10 times a night than it is to sell one bullet, or buy one drug or something like that. So it's a big issue, and we're working with them. We're trying to get our arms around it, and we're probably the leaders in the country in what we've been able to do. I've been trying to raise it to a federal level, which we've been able to do. I testified in front of the Foreign Affairs Committee on this issue. So it's something, again, inside the county of Los Angeles, it's a safety net. We do so much and so many different things that
Right.
people don't realize. And yet you still have these, always the front page stories or the connect the dot reporters. I mean, you have these incredible people like these 2 probation officers that take it on themselves, originally outside the network of their job, to be involved. I mean, I've been at fundraisers trying to assist them. I have a member of my own staff, he and his wife do yoga inside the juvie halls to deal with some of these victims. But I was at a fundraiser one night for that, and one of the probation officers got paged, and it was a 10-year-old girl picked up right down here in Main Street. So it's an issue that we're trying to deal with, and we've been very successful. I've got a lot of bipartisan support in Sacramento on pieces of legislation to change how we look at these things, and we're moving them forward on a national level.
And nobody thinks about that happening here, of course.
No, absolutely. Everybody else, like myself, until it's brought to my attention, is in
Right.
some third world country.
Of course.
And then the last one, Safe Surrender Program, that's been around since 2001, and again, an issue that one morning you read the paper and baby Andrew was thrown in a dumpster,
Yeah.
and so I asked my staff to see what they could do. I knew that probably as a county we couldn't do much, but we had to have some legislative help. Well, as we all know, each year 2, 3, 4,000 bills come in and out of the legislature. We found a bill that had been passed and signed by the governor a year before called the Safe Surrender Program, but no one knew anything about it. So we went to work. I put a committee together, probably 30, 40 people. We had a hotline set up within 30 days of 128 different languages, and then we just kept expanding the program to where, we've saved 146 lives, and it's been an incredible experience. I've been able to share in birthdays of these young kids, to see them with their siblings, their families. We've done, barbecues and, those kinds of things. We have right down here at the Hall of Administration, we now have a Garden of Life where we brought in the families and the kids, and they were able to plant their little trees and the little bushes and things like that. So, if I have a legacy, I hope that's it. It's well in place too, that you don't need Don Knabe to run it. It's going to run on its own. And now I've set up a scholarship fund. We've been raising money for that. We've been very successful. So, I mean, you stop and think, 2001, these kids are going to be ready to go to college, some of them. So we're working hard on that. And again, it's just been one of those programs that, I've never seen government work better or faster than what we did in the Safe Surrender Program. Billboards, public service, and I mean, we've done everything in multiple languages, and we've had a lot of support to make it happen. Everyone's on board now. Not only county hospitals, but every hospital in the county, because it's hard to imagine that someone could be so desperate that they don't have a family friend or someone to do the kinds of things, to talk to. And so these poor ladies, and we've had 146 brave moms do the right thing.
Right.
They get pregnant in secret. They want to hide the secret. Then they want to throw away the secret. But now, no name, no shame, no blame.
You are so loved by so many people, and you have brought so much of yourself into this job. You're not the typical politician that we see out there. How have you been able to do that?
Well, I mean, I hope I've been able to, as I tell folks, just never forget where you come from. My upbringing was in the Midwest. That's not a bad place to grow up. Not near the peer pressures that I see my kids go through and my grandkids now. And so I really, that's just my nature. I mean, I've always been, you can call me a joiner or whatever, but I mean, I've always been involved in my church groups, in my community. And it's just been a part of my life. But again, never ever thinking of the political life. So I've made the transition, hopefully, in the right way. But more importantly, I also know that today's success is tomorrow's failure, and you meet the same people going up you do coming down, kind of a thing. And I just, it's my nature, and I mean, it's been able to maintain my composure and not think of myself any more important than I am, and to remember those young victims, to remember the babies, to remember the patients at Rancho. And on top of it, most importantly, when you represent 2 million people in 27 cities, you have to put together an incredible staff. And that's what I've been able to do. I mean, they're my eyes and ears, and because there's physically no way possible for me to do all that. And so I've had an incredible staff uh, that sort of reflect my values, and more importantly, they're caring about the communities that we represent. So, I enjoy it. I enjoy every part of it. I'm ready to move on too. So, I mean, it's just been an incredible ride.
Well, that takes me into my next question. Noon, December 5th, 2016. What will come next for you, and how do you think you'll feel that day?
Well, how do I'm sure it'll be an emotional day for me, but particularly pulling in here for the last time. And,
Sure.
if I had a nickel for every time I've gone up and down the elevator, to do that for the last time. And hopefully they'll let me have my elevator card. But it'll probably be a very emotional piece, but again, one that I feel I'm ready for. And, that last time out the door, we'll see. But the next day, it's going to feel unique. I mean, to be able to I can wake up and I can do whatever I want.
You can have a pajama day if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to make a speech at 7 o'clock. Like this morning, I had to give a speech at 7:30 in the morning, and all the way into the evening. So that's going to be different, but it's going to be nice. I think I'm ready for the next chapter. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm talking to Pepperdine SC and Cal State Long Beach about teaching a class or being a guest lecturer. I'm talking to boards of directors. I'm talking to strategic planning groups. I'm talking to, you know, who knows? I mean, I'm trying to find that balance. I want to work 50% and play 50%, or do I want to work 70% and play 30, or do I want to play 70 and work 30? So I'm trying not to overcommit too early, to because many folks tell me if you do that, sometimes 6 months down the road, you really want to do something, but you're already committed to something else.
Well, you had a TV show. Now, will we be seeing you more maybe on television?
Well, right now the plan is yes. Charter wants to continue it,
Great.
And so we'll continue to do that as long as we do that. But I've really enjoyed that. It's really been interesting to bring to light the throes of county government and what we do every day. And I try to tell everyone, again, I mentioned it earlier, I mean, there's a lot more to this job than just holding up a scroll and thanking somebody to being Citizen of the Year. And by the way, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for this great recognition. And been to many of these dinners, so
Yes,
it's going to be weird being on the other side of that, to be the recipient instead of MC or something like that and mispronouncing names. But it, um, it's going to be different, and I know that there will be somebody said, well, what are you going to miss the most? And I said, well, probably the thing I'll miss the most is being able to pick up the phone, call someone, to help someone, whether it's 5 o'clock on a Friday night or Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock or Sunday night at 6, to being able to assist people. I mean, hopefully for at least a year, maybe they'll return my calls. Who knows? But
I think that will continue for
yeah,
you.
well, I hope so. But that's really I mean, that's what our job is. Nobody calls us to say thank you.
Right.
I mean, it's a rare call we get. They always call because they're hurting. I mean, they need something, and with the great staff that we have, and I always tell my staff, I want you to find out, let's help them, number one. Then number two, maybe it's a situation where, what if someone doesn't know how to call a supervisor's office? How can we fix the problem too?
Right.
So it's I mean, it really, I mean, this is, you get a PhD in life as a county supervisor. but more importantly, really get an opportunity to serve the people. You don't have to worry about presidential vetoes or a gubernatorial veto or a caucus telling you how to vote. You get to fix the problems, and 3 votes changes things. But more important is a lot of autonomy as it relates, to what we have to do as a safety net. I mean, when you come to a county hospital, the first question is not, are you Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent? We're sick. How do we fix it? So
Right.
that's the great thing about this job.
Well, I'm sure you leave a little bit of yourself with everybody that you've met. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.